Hello, everyone, and welcome to Christian Conservative Talk. I am Johnny Branham, your host. Tonight, I have the honor and the privilege to be interviewing live here on YouTube none other than Shontia Branham. Let me just go into a little bit about Shontia. She's an educator of over 26 years. She's a mother of 5, wife, business owner, Branham Christian Academy, located in Tampa area, in the Tampa Bay area, rather. That's at 912 East Sly Avenue, Tampa, Florida, 33604. You can find her location also on the web at branhamchristian.org. You've been in education over 26 years. You've graduated second in your class, magna cum laude. Your master's degree is from Grand Canyon University. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and what inspired you to take this road as a teacher and as an educator.
Well, it started back in this, I guess it was the 80s. I was a kid, and I used to play school in my grandmother's garage. And I just loved education. I just loved school. When I got older, I thought, this is something that I want to pursue. And I started looking into education when I was probably in my 20s. When I went back to school, I was a non-traditional student and wanted to engage. I wanted to be the teacher that I never had. I didn't have that teacher that would sit with me and understand how I felt about whatever was going on. One of the things that I really enjoy about students is that they're truly individual people that sometimes have problems. And so what we need to do as educators or adults is to find out what problem they're having in order to help them on their journey. A lot of my students would come to me with problems, and I would help them, pray for them, and it would help them to move forward. I always wanted a teacher like that. So I thought, I'd be that teacher for my students. So that's what actually I guess, geared me into the direction of becoming a teacher. I really didn't know what subject I wanted to teach because I really didn't like math, but I did like English and science. And so those are some of the subjects that I really engaged in as a young child. But as I got older, I started working with special needs children. And I started with autism. And I wanted to go to school to be a special education teacher. And so when I went to Tennessee State University, I thought, I'm going to actually go into SED, which is severely emotionally disturbed. And that, and at the time I was working in special education. So I was engulfed in children and how children operate and how they work and things of that nature. So it was like on the job experience. What steered me away from the special education, which I was like about 9 credits away from getting my degree in STD. I was working with this teacher, and she told me, she's like, I don't think you want to do this. And I was like, why not? This is my field. This is what I enjoy. This is what I love. And she said, well, because as the teacher, she's like, look at what's going on in the classroom right now, where you guys as assistants are working with the children, and all I'm doing is paperwork. And I was like, oh no, that's not what I wanted to be hands-on with my students. So if that wasn't the road that I needed to travel, then I needed to look elsewhere. So I went back to my advisor, and I started talking to her about maybe another career path. And she said, why don't you try family consumer sciences? And I was like, okay. So I looked into that, and I ended up going into early childhood education, which I absolutely adore, because I love how children operate and how to teach children even from the womb. And so I got into early childhood education, moved to Florida, and I became a high school teacher teaching early childhood to high school students, and them teaching the preschoolers. So it was a very, very wonderful journey. I left there to become principal of a Christian school here in Tampa. And then after I left there, then I started my own school. So I just believe that education is very, very important. It is key to whatever you want to be and whatever you want to do in life. And so that's one of the things one of the treks that I'm on, ministry as well. So anything
Gotcha.
dealing with anything dealing with meeting the need.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Now, a lot of parents and even some educators may not be aware of some of the differences between a daycare and a preschool. And the reason why I bring that up is because I've heard about this window from 0, basically meaning newborn, to 6 years old, this critical window that some parents may or may not be aware of, some educators may or may not be aware of. And so if you could explain to the listeners, the viewers, about this infant to 6-year window, why it's so important, and what is the difference between sending their child to a daycare versus a preschool from that perspective and from that narrative?
Well, scientifically, it is proven that in between ages 0 to 6, the window is completely open. And what that means is that the children, as far as learning goes, the children are ready and open and willing to learn. It's like they come here with a clean slate, ready to learn. They pick up everything in their environment. Children are sponges. So what we need to do when we have children is to create this world for them to pick it up. A lot of parents don't understand that. They think children are not really dumb, but they just don't understand, or they don't know. And they're learning, but they're just going to pick it up and put it back down. And that's not the case. What we need to understand as parents and educators is that what we put in front of the child is what they're going to take with them. And so that's the mindset that the educator and the parent needs to know, is that whatever I put in front of my child, that's what they're going to take with them. So it's very important. A lot of times people don't realize that from birth, the child can learn. They can actually literally learn. We've seen that over and over again, where you have a 6-month-old that is reading. They're not speaking, but because of what they've seen, they're actually able to match words. And it's the same thing with, on the secular side, when you see parents that are allowing their children to listen to certain songs, well, they pick up those songs really quickly. It's the same thing with education. It's the same thing with anything that they're learning, is that we need to put things in front of them that they can actually use. They can't use twerking. They can't use, they probably can, but that's not appropriate for them. So those cussing, using profanity, things of that nature. They pick things up because they're supposed to. That's how their mind is designed. So it's very important, like with foreign languages, it is very, very crucial in between that 0 to 6 window to introduce foreign languages to your children. They will pick them up. Children are so ready to learn. People don't understand. That's the reason why a lot of times they get into trouble, because they learn the wrong things. And then the parents get upset, but you taught me the wrong things. So it's very important to make sure that what we're putting in front of the child is something that they can take with them and that they can learn from. The difference between a daycare and a preschool, in most cases, you have daycares that just the parents bring the child there, they pay for their child to be there while they go to work, and the child plays all day. The daycare provider changes their diaper, or they play music, or they teach them how to share. Pretty much, that's pretty much it. Some daycares don't even do that. They just let the children just sit there, put a TV in front of them. And that's not all daycares, because I know a couple of daycares where people are trying to change that narrative. As far as preschools are concerned, preschools are there to help the students to become successful and to get ready for school. That's why it's called preschool. You're getting ready for school. So they're actually literally showing the children words, letters, numbers, color, shapes. They have a schedule. So it's not a lot of play all the time. Play is important, creativity is important, but it's also important to get those children ready for kindergarten so that they can read. One of the things that I saw in Nashville versus Florida is when I was working in kindergarten inclusion, we had a lot of kindergartners who were writing paragraphs, 5-year-olds writing paragraphs.
Wow.
It means they're reading, right? So they're reading and they're writing in kindergarten. Why? Because they had some type of pre-education. Mom either taught me at home, or I went to a preschool where they were teaching me. So now I can make the connection when I get into kindergarten. My teacher doesn't have to spend a lot of time on letters and letter sounds. Now let's start working on words. Let's put those words together in a sentence and start using capital letter in the beginning and a punctuation at the end, and showing them this is a sentence versus, okay, this is the letter A. What letter is this? The letter A. What letter is this? The letter A. What sound does it make? Ah. What sound does it make? A. You see what I'm saying? So it's important to do those type things in a preschool setting, so that way when the child is in kindergarten, we can move forward. One of the situations, and I'm going to kind of move a little bit with my daughter Christina, because this is applicable. With my daughter Christina, she was in a kindergarten setting. And she was reading. I taught her to read. She was about 15 months when I started her with reading, starting her with letters and letter sounds and things of that nature.
Awesome.
By the time she got to kindergarten, she was literally reading, and the students would run up to her and say, Christina, read this to me. Christina, what does this say? So it upset the teacher, because all of these other children in her class, maybe one other child was actually, pre-reading. These children are running up to Christina asking her what this word is. So the teacher is saying, your child is disrupting my class, which if anything, you should have used her, which I did tell her, you should have used her as your helper versus saying she's disrupting the class, because that's discouraging to the child that I came in and I learned these children didn't, and I get punished for it. So it's very important to make sure that when we're teaching children, we're teaching them something that they can take with them. If they can't take twerking with them, they can't take cussing with them, they can't take all of these inappropriate things, they can't take with them to school. I mean, they can, but then now you're getting phone calls saying your child is misbehaving versus, okay, now let's move forward with our education. Because if he can make the connection in the reading, then now we can read things that you enjoy. But if you cannot make the connection with the reading and all you're doing is learning about letter sounds, then it prohibits a lot of things. Not saying that learning about letter sounds is incorrect or wrong in kindergarten, but it helps a lot when the child can learn these things in preschool.
Now, from a parent standpoint, because you're both in a unique spot to speak from both an educator standpoint and from that of being a parent, a single mom, or even someone who's in a mom and dad, two-parent household, how much investment in regards to time? If a single mom is listening and said, I would love to do that, help my child at 1-year-old or 2-year-old, but I just don't have the time. Help them wrap their mind around the time investment, just say on a weekly basis, that you had to give in order to get that output with Christina?
Okay, so being a working mom, I was definitely a working mom as well. So being a working mom, what I had to do, I called it homeschooling because my children were in a daycare setting, and I didn't have the means, the money, or anything like that for a preschool at the time, which there's more preschools coming up now than it was back in the 90s. But what I did was I got all of these. There's plenty of material online, but at the time I made my own because I was working in a school. But I got alphabet letters, I got colors, I got shapes, all of those things, and I made her bedroom into a little classroom. So she had the alphabet around the wall, and she had her name above her bed, and I would put a letter of the week next to the door. Whenever she left out of the door, if it was the letter R, she had to hit the door and go R. Every single time she came in the door, R. Every time she walked out of the door, R. What did that do? That repetition is helping her to learn the letter R and to learn the sound of R. And so, and on the picture was a ring. So she knows, okay, R, ring. And so those were the types of things that I did. And I did those usually after dinner, after everybody had their baths and everything. We would sit down and we would take about an hour, and we'd do some of those things. We wouldn't take the whole hour, just straight academics, but we would have some fun. We would do some building blocks. I would put letters on the building blocks, and I would have her to match the letter. The capital letter with the lowercase letter, she'd have to find them. And I was like, okay, we gotta hurry up, and we'd make it fun. And so we would kind of race to do that, her and her sister. And before I knew it, she was grasping. And then when I would just go over those letters every single day, I would go over them. A lot of times what educators need to understand, parents as well, is that we don't always want to test. We want, what letter is this? And the child's like, B? No, this is R. What letter is this? C? Stop doing that. Because obviously with the test, I'm not getting it. So what you need to do is you need to go over the letters. This is B, say B. B. This is C, say C. C. This is D, say D. D, and make it fun, make it rhythmic. Even if you do some videos, there's tons of things out on YouTube. Your Baby Can Read is one that we use now. And also, what is it called? Hooked on Phonics. Hooked on Phonics is also online as well. So those are some tools that you could use as a parent at home with your child. And you only need an hour. You don't need to spend tons and tons of time. You can just, like, right after their bath, or right before their bath, or right before they eat, however you want to do it. Just 30 minutes to an hour for your child's education. And I know that you can do that because I did it, and I worked, and so I know it's doable.
A worthy investment, because one of the things that we're going to segue into, I want to ask you about is
I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Can you hear now?
Yes.
Okay. Is that parents, whether it be from public school setting or from a private school setting, have a misinformation campaign, if you will, going on. And what I mean by that, we talked about the importance of early childhood education, making sure a child is reading, making sure a child is on level. But what happens sometimes, and what we're going to talk about, is that a child may be in a private school, and that private school says that they're on a 7th grade level. Or that child is in public school, and that school says this child is on a 7th grade level. And what has happened is, when you've actually assessed them, they come into your school, they're on a 2nd grade reading level, or they're on a first grade math level. Explain to the educators and even the parents, most importantly, about why that happens, how that happens, and what they can do about it.
Well, a lot of times in the public school sector, they're going on this trek of the child being the age, the grade level and the age. Let's just say, for example, a 10-year-old is usually in the 5th grade. So we'll take the child and we'll say, okay, we're not looking at his assessment. We're looking at his grade level and his age, and we put him in a 5th grade. A lot of times they do that, and the child is even misinformed. Um, it's really unfortunate that that happens. But a lot of times when you have a school system, the public school system, the child sometimes becomes a number. So it's really hard to say, okay, Billy is on this grade level. Let's see what we can do to get Billy where he needs to be versus, okay, we don't have time. Billy didn't get it. We're just going to push him off to the 6th grade because he's now 11 and we don't have time for that. We have to get these new 5th graders that are coming in, these new 10-year-olds that are coming in. And so maybe Billy will get it next year. Or they'll hold Billy back a year, depending on what the parents say. They'll hold Billy back a year and they'll see if they can catch him up. And most of the time they don't. They'll teach Billy to the test. They'll actually say, okay, this is the answer to this and this is the answer to that, so that Billy will pass the test. Once Billy passes the test, they push him off into that grade level. There's so many learning gaps, so many learning gaps. And so what we do is that we prescribe to the child. We use a Bible-based curriculum or a Bible-based assessment to see where the child is academically, so that we'll be able to prescribe the curriculum or the path for the child to be able to catch up or to be able to see where they are, what grade level they're on. So for example, let's say Billy came into our school and he came in on a 5th grade level. Billy comes in at a 5th grade level, but when we give the assessment, Billy, as far as math is concerned, Billy's on 2nd grade. And as far as reading is concerned, Billy's on 1st grade. Or let's flop that. Let's say Billy comes in and he has a 7th grade math level, but he has a 1st grade reading level. We're able to help Billy by giving him or prescribing him the curriculum that he needs. Instead of saying, okay, well, if you can't do 5th grade math and 5th grade reading, then we can't help you. Or maybe let's put you in a special education, give you an individual education plan or an IEP, and then that way we can help you. And that's not always the case. A lot of these children that are in the special ed sector don't need to be there. There's a lot of kids that are in special ed that maybe they couldn't pass the math level math level test, but then the reading level they were great with. So instead of putting him in special education and giving him an IEP and saying that he has some type of problem, let's go ahead and prescribe to him the curriculum that he needs to get him where he needs to be. So if he is he's literally 10 years old and he's 7th grade math and 1st grade reading, we need to give him the 7th grade math, give him the 1st grade reading, and then just help him to come up where he needs to be. Otherwise, he's going to continue to be pushed along until he graduates with no credits and graduates with a certificate of attendance. And that's not what we want, because then we talk about a whole different population. Because I can't get a job, or I can't get to the job that I want, I'm very gifted in engineering, but I can't get an engineering job because I didn't get a diploma. So now I'm going to survive. So this guy down the street, and this is just a scenario, I'm not saying that this happens with everybody, but this guy down the street says, hey, Billy, drop this off over there at such and such corner and I'll give you $200. Billy just made $200 just by walking across the street. So guess what? Now Billy is a suspect to go to prison for selling something or to get, you know what I'm saying? So it's very important to make sure that we're proactive instead of being reactive. If we know that a
Yes.
child is not getting it when they're younger, we need to do everything in our power to make sure that that child is paid attention to. Because if we don't, then it could end up like Billy going to prison, because they're already building prisons, because if you're not reading by third grade, they're like, okay, this kid's not going to get it, so let's go ahead and make room for this person. And that's just our society. So what we need to do is be proactive and say, okay, this baby, we're wasting time right now. This baby could be learning things that are going to help him in kindergarten. People say, oh, he's just a baby. No, babies learn. Go to YouTube, type in babies learning, babies reading. You will see a plethora of babies reading, not necessarily reading as far as talking, but there's a baby, little cute little boy. His dad says, hand me the word up. And he goes and he looks on the floor and he finds the word up and he hands it to his dad. Oh, find the word clock. He turns around, he looks around, and he finds the word clock and he hands it to his dad. That's reading. That's called pre-reading. I'm recognizing that this is a word. So when I can put words together, I can make sentences. If I can make sentences, I can make paragraphs. But if I don't know words, I actually had a little girl that came to me years ago that she was 5 years old, about to turn 6. She didn't know a letter from a color. When you say, go touch the letter L, and she point to the color yellow. And that's not okay. And it's because when you look into a child's background, you look into what's going on in their home life, you see that, okay, there's nothing here that's educational going on that she can bring to school with her. So it's not important. And if it's not important, please hear me out. If it's not important to mom and dad, it's not going to be important to the child. You can't say, go do your homework, go read. If I don't ever see you pick up a book, mom, then reading's not important to me. Now, you do have some children out there, and this is not for all, because you do have some children out there, but it's very, very rare that will go and read a book, even though their mom didn't tell them to. But we're not talking about those children. We're talking about the masses of children where the parents don't value education and the children don't either. So a lot of times parents and educators look at yourself and see what you're doing, because children are sponges. They're soaking up their environment. And if you're not valuing education and you're not valuing reading, they won't either.
I completely agree. I've seen every spectrum or every end of it, from the children that are excelling to the children that are well below. And there's one common denominator, usually in the children that are excelling, not in every case, but usually in the children that are excelling. They're the ones who have the parents that are a part of the PTA. They're the ones who have the parents that show up for parent and teacher night. They're the ones that have the parents that are always involved in their child's education. And so I look at it as an investment. Do you want your child to be independent, to be that person that goes on and says, I have that engineering degree, I have that college degree, I have that trade that I went off and I went to over and excel in this particular area? It all starts at home. And
Well,
I think that, and you're probably gonna put an exclamation point on this. Yes, it's the school, but it begins with the child's first teacher, which is the parent. But I think what you're saying too is that some parents are waiting for the child to go to school to begin their education, when in fact the child should already be getting their education from the time that they come out of the womb.
Well, one of the things that I want to add as well is that I always advise parents, don't allow your child to go to school without the basics. Because let's just say, hypothetically, the teacher is not a good teacher. All year long, your whole 10 months of learning has been wasted. So I am going to make sure that my child has the basics before he or she enters school, so that that teacher has something to build on. If my child doesn't have anything for that teacher to build on, I have to look within myself. What did I do? Because it's not the teacher's responsibility. I'm the parent. If I take my child out of that school, guess what? I'm still the parent. If I put my child in a different school, I'm still the parent. So it's my responsibility to make sure that my child has everything that he or she needs to be successful. I cannot blame Miss Jones if my child's not reading by the time he goes to first grade. I can't do that. It's on me. It's my responsibility. And I can't say I don't have time. And then at the end of the end of the year or the end of his educational career, I'm upset at the school system. No, it's a partnership. It's not just on the teacher. It's not just on the parent. If it is going to be on the parent, then the parent's homeschooling. But if it's going to be solely on the teacher, then I mean, it can't be solely on the teacher because the parent is bringing the child, but if it can be solely on the parent. But at the end of the day, parents, don't ever allow your child to go to school without knowing the basics. They need to know their alphabet letters. They need to know the sounds of those letters. They need to know the colors, the shapes. They need to know numbers. They need to know how to count. Not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, because kids will do that. They're touching the object and they're counting the object. It needs to be, you have to have tons and tons of patience with your child, because if it's a new concept, then they need your patience because you love them. Otherwise, they'll hate education. They'll hate school. That's not what you want. So you need to have patience with them, have fun with them in learning. And that way they actually gain the information and they retain the information. That's the key, is retaining. How many times do we say, if we don't use it, we lose it? Well, we have to be able to retain the information. How do we do that? We have to be able to use the information again and again. So it's not just, okay, well, he got it, let's move on. Okay, even though he got it and you can move on, let's review. That's what at J.E. Branham Christian Academy, our homework is review only. We don't give new concepts and allow the parents to be frustrated, because if that parent is frustrated, I'm making the parent frustrated. The parent makes the child frustrated, and then the child doesn't want to do the work. So it's only going to be work that we've gone over. It's a review. That's the homework. That's what homework should always be, is a review. It should never be a new concept. And a lot of teachers are sending children home with new concepts that the parents are like, I don't know what this is. I don't know how to do this. The children should be able to do the homework on their own. If they can't, it's not homework. You just told the parent that you need to get your degree and teach your child. It needs to be a review. And also, I tell parents, what parent is sitting there rubbing their belly with their baby inside saying, I just can't wait to just not teach this child anything. And I just can't wait to just teach him how to cuss and twerk and, just show him inappropriate things that I like, because I'm an adult, he has to like what I like. I just can't wait. I just can't wait till he's born. No, that's not the aspirations that most people have for their children. They want their children to be better than them. I've always told my children, I want you to be better than me. When I went to college and I got my bachelor's and my master's, I didn't do that for me. I did that for them. And the reason I did it for them is because now you have no excuse. Mom did it. That's why I went to college and got my degree.
Exactly.
I was teacher of the year in 2013. I did that for them. I did all of the stuff, all of these accomplishments that I've had, graduating second in my class, magna cum laude, that was for them. Everything that I strive for is for them, so that you have no excuse.
Yes.
I'm not better than you.
I think that's
better than me. Oh, sorry.
Yes. That speaks volumes to this generation. We come from a Christian worldview, so of course we don't believe in oppression, that there's any system that is in place that can hold anyone down, because obviously if the Bible is true, or the word of God is true in that regard, or the world is true and the system is somehow greater than God, we know the truth of that matter. But I want to talk to these parents who may say, we know the story. I'll preface it with this. We know the story. By the time a child reaches a certain age, usually around 8 years old, third grade, they've already determined that this particular individual is not going to do well because they're below level, and this is the school to prison pipeline. And you may have some parents out there right now that may think that their children are on grade level, and they're not. They may think that their child is on the track or on the pathway to graduate, and are maybe a little bit concerned that they may be one of the ones that are handed that certificate of completion when they get to the 12th grade, and by then it's too late, or the child is struggling and they drop out. How can a parent get in contact with you in regards to an assessment? And would you recommend an assessment just because?
Absolutely. I truly believe that, as we were talking before, children need to be prescribed. It's like you going to the doctor and you telling the doctor what's going on, and the doctor prescribes. He doesn't just say, what's your name, Johnny? Johnny, I think you need to take these pills because your name's Johnny and you're however old you are. And that's what we do. Because you're 10 years old, here's your work. Go ahead and sit down and do your work. Instead, we need to prescribe. We need to see where the child is, prescribe what they need to be successful. This helps the child to love learning, because if it's not too high and it's not too low and it's right where I need to be, then I can learn. I can actually gain information from being where I need to be, versus you just giving me something to do and I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know how to do it. I may guess and I may get some things right, and that may make me feel good about myself, but that's not good enough. How you can, if a person wants to get in touch with me, because that's what we do at our school. If you want to get in touch with me and find out more information about our school, you can go to BranhamChristian.org, and that's BranHam Christian.org. And you can also give us a call, 813-906-5993. And we'll be able to give you more information about how we do it at our school. If the child's coming to our school, then and their scholarship is valid for our school, then we definitely assess the children, and it's free. There is a fee if you want to do it and your child is not coming to our school. So we can talk about that as well.
Speak to some of the parents that may or may not know about the recent changing of the Step Up for Students scholarship and how that works, and maybe speak to some of the other scholarships, because one of the beautiful blessings that we have here in Florida in particular is school choice. And some parents may or may not be educated to school choice. So if you could speak to that and how that works and how they can get information, and how, if they wanted to maybe pull their kid out of a public school and bring them into a private Christian environment so they can get those prescriptions that you're talking about, how they go about that. Talk a little bit about all of that.
Okay, so dealing with the scholarship program, Step Up for Students, you can go to Step Up for Students, or you can go to the Department of Education online, and they have underneath the school choice tab, they have the Step Up for Students, or the Florida Tax Credit Scholarships. If you're a family of four and you're making around $100,000, your family qualifies for.
So that's up to that's not like a threshold requirement. They can actually make up to $100,000 a year.
Yes, up to, I apologize, up to $100,000. Yes. We just got that signed into law by our Governor DeSantis the Great. He's doing a lot of great things here in Florida for us educators and the ones that are not in the public sector for school choice. And so we're just really, really grateful that God is using him and he's allowing God to use him. One of the things that I will add that he did put prayer back into schools years ago when we used to have the moment of silence after we did the Pledge of Allegiance, they took that away. They took away the Pledge of Allegiance. They took away a lot of things. And so he's bringing those things back in the state of Florida. So I'm really, really proud of him for doing those things, because it's really sad that, you know, one person can take all of that away and it takes an act of Congress to bring it back. So for him to stand up and do that, I thought that was phenomenal. But with the Step Up for Students scholarship, like I said, family of four making up to $100,000 a year, you will qualify. And basically all you have to do, you can go to our website and I have the eligibility underneath online enrollment. So you just go to our website, go underneath online enrollment, and then you'll see scholarship eligibility. And then you'll click on that and then you'll scroll down to Step Up for Students. We also take the school readiness scholarship as well for our 3 and 4-year-olds. So if the child is kindergarten through 12th grade, you'll be able to go on there and click and you'll see the scholarship eligibility. Even if your child's not going to our school, you could still go through there and it'll take you to that link and you'll be able to apply. One of the things that I really, really like about the scholarship is that it pays for the child's tuition. So our tuition is $12,000, but if you have the scholarship, we accept your scholarship. Out of pocket is $12,190 a year. Another thing that I really like about the scholarship is that we're able to have school choice. One of the things I don't like about it is that the public school gets, of course, more money than we do. So when it comes to certain things, we're not able, or we're limited, I would say, on those things. We would have to get grants and things of that nature because the public school is the government. And so they're getting about $9,000 per student, where we're getting about $6,000 to $7,000 per student. So that's a little unfair to me or to us as private educators. But at the same time, we get to teach the children about Jesus Christ. And so that to me is more important than the 9,000, if that's the case, which that would help. But at the same time, I think that being able to teach children about their creator and the curriculum that we use, it is enriched with the word of God. And so the children, even with their assessment.
And what is that curriculum, if you don't mind explaining it a little bit?
That curriculum is the Accelerated Christian Education curriculum. You can find that on aceministries.com. And it is a phenomenal curriculum. It actually, like I said, we also use a Becca for our younger students, but the older students, we found that ACE is the best for them. And so we're just excited. We're super excited because the children are learning their scriptures, they're learning their Bible verses, they're learning their prayers. We pray every day. When a child is going through something, instead of immediately punishing them, we bring them to the side, we talk to them, we pray with them, we find out what's going on, we anoint with oil, we do all of those things that are going to help the child to be successful versus just punishing and calling mom. And, you know, we talk to the child and the biggest thing that we do is we are examples. We want to raise up disciples. So how do we do that? We have to be an example. So just because this child is acting out or however, we don't just punish them. We talk to them. We pull them to the side. We love on them because I don't know what you're going through. I don't know if you're hungry and you didn't eat at home last night. I don't know if you got a beating. I don't know if you've been abused. So it's as a Christian, as a true believer and follower of Jesus Christ, I have to put myself in that child's shoes. How would I want that? How would I want that teacher or that principal, that administrator to treat me? How would I want them to treat me? So that's how I treat the child. I don't ever want them to feel intimidated. I want them to feel safe. And so we have a safe, loving environment. Our motto is love first, then teach. And our moniker is Ambassadors for Christ. So we're doing everything that we can to make sure that their learning experience is the best. And so when it comes to, I think I may have answered all your questions. When it comes to the curriculum, and not the curriculum, but the Florida tax credit and the scholarships, all you have to do is just apply if you fit the criteria and just go forward with that. If I were you and you are a believer in Jesus Christ, I would pull my kid out of public school because it's starting to become really ugly right now. I don't have an issue with choice as far as you as an adult choosing who you want to sleep with and, you know, your gender and all of that. I don't have a problem with that because if God gives you a choice, who am I to take it from you? But what I do have a problem with is you introducing that to children. In New York, and people say, oh, well, that's not here, but we have to be careful because there are some jurisdictions that are trying to infiltrate. In New York, they're actually talking about masturbation to first graders. And so
Wow.
if you don't believe it, look it up. I wouldn't tell you anything that isn't true because that's not ethical. So I want you to go to YouTube and go to AMAZE and look up, I think it's under first graders. I think it's, I don't quote me, but I think it's masturbation to first graders in New York. I looked it up. It is a cartoon. It's two little kids and two animals, and they're playing soccer or something. And this teacher walks over and starts talking to them about their body parts. And this little boy starts talking about, you know, what happens when my penis gets hard. And she says, oh, that's an erection. And he's like, well, when I touch it, it feels good. And she tells him that it's okay to discover your body parts and how they feel, but just don't do it in public. That's not something that you want an educator or anybody talking to your child about. If you're going
No.
to talk to your child about sex ed, I think that should be something you talk to your child about. It shouldn't be something in a
Yes.
curriculum because guess what? As an educator, they can get it wrong. They can have a hidden agenda.
Yes.
Those types of issues and things of that nature should not be discussed in a classroom because then children, you know, they start to get curious. There's also, and you can also look on YouTube, and the curriculum that they're using is called AMAZE, AMAZE. And one of them is, when do I have sex? When do I have sex? And the questions, well, when do I have sex? Who do I want to have sex with? Why should I have sex? Why are we talking about that to children right now? I should be teaching them things like economics and civics and how to purchase land and how to buy a house and how to buy a car and
Yes.
how to be an
Yes.
entrepreneur and,
Agreed.
you know, those types of things, not sex. Why are we so focused in on that's nothing but that's demonic. It's demonic forces. That's not, God even tells you sex is only honorable in a marriage. That's what we need to
Yes.
be teaching if we're going to be talking about sex. But that's not something that we should be even opening Pandora's box for. You open Pandora's box, you can't say, okay, I just want one or two demons. You're going to get them all. And so now you have Blue's Clues that was celebrating Pride Month. You have what is it? Queen Hour, Drag Queen Hour, Drag Queen Story Hour. I apologize. Look that up. Drag Queen Story Hour. You have 3 to 5-year-olds in there. Well, there were some babies in there too with their moms, and these drag queens are just, you know, it's just, you know, that's not appropriate. Don't
No.
teach a woman that she can be a man. Don't teach a man that he can be a woman. God said that he made them male and female. If you don't want that taught to your child, which who's to say what's going on in this world today, you need to look and be careful with Christian schools as well. Because just because the
Yes.
school says Christian on it, it's just like the Christians that go to your church, right? Um, everybody
Yeah.
uses that term so loosely, and they say,
Un-
"Oh, I ain't killed nobody. I'm a Christian." You know, so you need to.
Unfortunately, yeah, that's true that you have to assess those things. And, you know, I just want to speak to, you know, not to cut you off or anything like that, but what you're talking about with the education and filling in is just when we're looking at reading levels, and half the people in schools, 50%, particularly here in Hillsborough County where we are, probably statewide in the state of Florida, 50% of children are on reading level. We don't have time to focus on all this other stuff.
No, but they want to focus in on that because that's where they are. A lot of times what adults do is they bring the child up to their level instead of them saying, I was once a child. Let me understand that this is not okay. Let me understand that this child needs to be reading so that he can be successful. Some of my older children, just to get them into reading, I tell them, I ask them a question. Do you want to drive a car? And they're like, yeah, what kind of car do you want? And they tell me what kind of car they want. And I say, well, in order to get that car, you got to get your driver's license. So let's start reading so that we can get that driver's license. That's how I get my, and sometimes you have to motivate children like that. The older children, the younger children, it's simple. All you have to do is start picking up a book, start taking them to the library, start doing things that show them that you like reading so that they'll enjoy reading as well. Even if you don't like reading, fake it till you make it. But the bottom line is that the child, you're looking out for your child. God did not give you this child to waste time and to show him or her inappropriate things and do inappropriate things. There's things that, and also, we tell the children, in order for you to be successful in life, you're going to have to know what God's word says. You can't go around listening to everybody. You're going to have to show yourself approved. He told you to study for yourself. How do you study if you can't read? So we got work to do. We got work to do.
One of the things that I love about private school, and particularly not just a private school, but a Christian private school, is having that element of being able to teach the word of God, because success is not just premised on academia or what it's kind of coupled. Yes, faith without works is dead. So you do have to apply yourself. You do have to study and read the things that we need to read and understand and grasp. But without God, we can do nothing. That's what the word of God says. And one of the things that I love about what you were talking about, because it can be brought into a private school setting, it's the things that we didn't necessarily get when we were growing up in public school. For instance, discussions on credit, discussions on a mortgage, discussions on the stock market. So many kids they're sponges and they want to learn about the things that are applicable to life. So now when you can show me the stock market and teach me how graphs and how statistics and how percentages coincide with the real world and how I could actually make a living investing, and when you can show me that me being able to understand credit and build my credit leads to me getting that nice car or getting that nice home, now I'm motivated because I can see what you're teaching me connect to the real world. Not to discount some of the things that we learned in high school, but I can say from experience, I haven't used algebra 2 since I graduated. I'm just saying. But one thing that I can say, that the other things that home economics, the things about learning how to run your house, that's stuff that we use year after year. And we'll use until we leave this earth. So I just want you to kind of summarize a little bit in closing how it's not even that you have to sell people on a private school, but from an educator standpoint, from a parent standpoint, and from a person that came from the public school sector to a private school, summarize, what do you think are the benefits of a parent bringing their child into a private sector?
Well, as I said before, the private school is going to be more suited for the child because the public school is more suited toward the government and what the agenda that they want to push. My advice to parents is, when you are looking for a private Christian school, You need to make sure that you're available, that you are there to see what's going on, that you are asking every question that you could possibly ask. When parents come in, I tell them before they come with your questions. Please make sure you have a notepad and you're writing your questions down and you're asking those questions, because a lot of times people, they just want you to put their child in your school and go about your business. No, we need to find out, I want my child to be successful. Let's just say I didn't know up until now. I really just didn't know. I knew parenting was something, but I just didn't know really what I was supposed to do. I didn't know the depth or the brevity of it. So what do I need to do? Okay, I found out now that I need to be more responsible as a parent. I need to make sure that my child is learning, and I need to make sure on what he's learning. When I was working in the public schools, we wanted a Christian club, because we knew that it's public school. We know we can't just freely pray with the kids, and it's always something. So we were like, okay, can we have a Christian club? They said, as long as you can have an LGBT club, you can have a Christian club. That's what they told us. And so in order to have the Christian club, we have these kids walking around here talking about who they want to sleep with. Because that when you talk about LGBTQ, that's what you're talking about. Because and some people say, well, that's not true. Okay, so then let's just say a 5-year-old comes up and says, Mommy, what is a lesbian? How do you explain that? If all your life you knew that a mommy and a daddy made a family, how do you say a lesbian is a woman who loves another woman and they're, okay, so then even if you stop there, if the child's curious, they're going to say, so I'm a lesbian, Mom, because I love my sister. How do you explain that? It's inappropriate. Why are we talking about that to children? Like I said before, you can do whatever you want as an adult. If you want to cut your arms off, whatever, you have the choice to do whatever you want to do as an adult. Just don't push this on children. Don't push this agenda on children. That's all I add.
Yes.
In the public school system, anything goes. Pandora's box is open. In the private sector, in the private Christian school, depending on, because you do have some people that call themselves Christians, but they're not living the Christ life. Because the word Christian means Christ-like. If you're not like Christ and you don't have the mind of Christ, then I question if you're a Christian. Because you can't say, well, God gonna have to forgive me. I'm getting ready to go out here and cuss this person out. Is that Christ-like? And I'm not saying that anybody's perfect. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is your actions, your fruit is what Jesus was saying.
Consistency.
Exactly.
So in closing, I want to leave people with your information. You have been listening to Shontia Branham. She is the owner, director, principal of J.E. Branham Christian Academy, which is located in the online world under branhamchristian.org. That's BRANHAM Christian.org. Physical location is at 912 East Sly Avenue in Tampa, Florida, 33604. The phone number is 813-906-5993. Been a phenomenal interview. I know that the people who've been watching this either be alive or who are going to watch the recording of this are going to find a plethora of information that is going to be beneficial to them. And most certainly, if those parents decide to make the obvious choice and bring their child to Branham Christian Academy, they will definitely benefit thereof. We have just 2 minutes left. Anything you want to say in 60 seconds or less?
I do want to let you know as well that we don't teach critical race theory. That's not something that we are interested in. We're spirit beings. We teach the children that they're a spirit being, and this is a shell. If you're a Christian, you don't belong here anyway. You're just passing through. So let's not focus in on grace. Let's not focus in on the negative. That's what the enemy wants. He wants to divide, and conquer, and we're not standing for it. We're going to fight back. We know his tactics, and we're not ignorant of his devices. So we need to make sure everything that we're doing when we're teaching the children, that we're teaching them to love their neighbor as themselves. How do you do that? You love yourself, right? So you have to love that person just like you love yourself. You can't have any hate in your heart. If you have hate in your heart, then you're not Christ-like.
Amen. Amen. You heard it here first. This is the first episode of Christian Conservative Talk. I am your host, Johnny Branham. Thank you all for listening, and stay tuned for the next interview. Don't know who it's going to be. Could be another educator. We could bring Shontia back, but we don't know. But just stay tuned, and definitely we love you. Blessings to you all, and you all have a blessed evening. Good night.